There once was a ship put to the skies. The name of the ship was the Enterprise. Her nacelles lit, her phasers armed, oh blow, you red shirts blow. Soon may the flagship come, bring us Earl Grey tea and Orion rum. One day when the scanning is done, engage and boldly go.
Hello everybody and welcome to the second Star Trek Wars Council Roundtable Movies edition. I'm Senior Council Member James King, and joining me is a motley crew of Lainey.
Hey!
Joe.
Slightly ill, but I am here, mostly, and that should be enough.
Because of a freak transporter accident, we have two Alexes. We have Alex Cersei and Alex Lisa.
Hi!
And just so everyone's aware, Alex Lisa is driving at the moment, along with a friend who has not seen Wrath of Khan.
Oh. Hello, everyone.
What's your name, Alex's friend?
Calvin.
Calvin.
Is that the alternate timeline?
Good one.
Yeah, that's Calvin.
Let's put Alex on the spot.
Calvin.
Are Alex and Kelvin just friends, or is there a bit of...
Depends on who you ask.
Ah, okay. I think we better move on. So, we're going to be going through The Wrath of Khan. We've already done the motion picture. Whether this one will stack up against that, who knows? Let's find out. We're going to talk, first of all, your first impressions of the film. So, think back to when you first saw this film and what your take on it was. So, let's start with Joe. Joe, when did you first see Wrath of Khan, and don't say this afternoon?
I can confirm it was not this afternoon. I have seen this film about 4 times in my life. I cannot, for the life of me, remember when I first saw it, but I can confirm that I enjoyed it.
Excellent. Alex Cersei, what about you? When did you first see Wrath of Khan? What did you think?
Okay, I saw it for the first time in middle school, so 15, 16 years ago. I've watched this one dozens of times. I can't say how many. The first time I saw this, it was really shocking because, you know, you see Kirk, especially when you're younger, kind of in such, I don't know, sort of a godlike status, and he just gets his ass handed to him here a few times in this movie. So that was, you know, really, really stunning. And it's another transition of things that can happen on screen that you wouldn't see in a 45-minute TV show.
Yeah, that's true. I've never thought of it that way. But then, yeah, I suppose I'll do my origin story then, since that leads into it. Because I saw this. This was probably the first Star Trek I ever saw. So this was my first exposure to these characters. So I didn't get that thing of having Kirk on a pedestal. This was kind of my first experience with him. But yeah, I remember really liking it. It was one that we had on tape from when I was a kid. So I'd always seen this film loads and loads of times. And I was talking in the last episode about how we had things taped off telly and there were adverts in it. And
I was going to ask if you remembered the advert.
Yes. This one, there's 2 bits where I remember where the advert breaks were. There's the bit where Kirk is talking to Chekhov just after he's earwormed him. Sorry, Khan's talking to Chekhov. And he says, "And tell me where I may find James T. Kirk." There was an advert break there. And then when Joachim dies and Khan goes, "I will avenge you," there was another break for adverts there. So
there we go then. That's the power of Khan. He is the herald of advertisement.
Yeah, but even watching it now, it's weird that it doesn't break when that happens. I'm like, I should be able to go get a cup of tea now, but I mean, admittedly, I do have a pause button, but hey ho. Lainey, what about you?
I honestly cannot remember when I first saw this. I can guarantee I didn't see it at the cinema because it came out exactly a year before I was born. So I imagine as a child, I've made some little notes about what the ratings were because I definitely saw this when I was a younger child because the earwigs scarred me.
This sort of 15,
and that's
wasn't it?
always been my like first thought when it comes to this movie is the ear thing. So I was young. It's the ear things film.
To be fair, though, that is from that culture did get. I think the concept of the earworm might not have come from that, but I think it definitely added to that interpretation. You know, the song that's stuck in your head and you can't get rid of.
You think that came from Can?
I don't think it came from that. I think it came from something else in some other language. But I think this probably did cement it as a term in people's minds.
That's interesting. I never thought of that. Talking about the rating, though, Lainey, this were a 15 in the UK, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I googled it because I was like, how did my parents allow me to see this? This, like, surely this wasn't right. But it came out when there was an AA rating. Like, this was like before they had in the UK they have the Universal Parent Guidance. They now have 12A, 15, and 18. And this came out before those, and it was an AA, which equates to 12A now. It's 12A now. The DVD I bought in 2002 was a 12, but that was before the A bit.
Yeah.
So you can watch it if you're under 12, if your parents let you.
Yeah, when we had it, it was definitely a 15. I mean, it wasn't. It was edited for television, so they probably took out the
yeah,
ear
they had
bit
to take
completely.
the ear things out. That's what it says on this British certificate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
so
it's 15. I can confirm it's definitely a 15 rating on Amazon UK, Prime UK.
So, this is a pretty naughty film then, you know what I mean? Like, everything's a 12A now.
It was an AA, which was over 14.
There we go.
IMDb has it as a 12A. My DVD, which had the earworms in it, is a 12.
But I think standards change, and maybe what was considered frightening then is been turned down. Maybe it's just that your parents are slightly neglectful, Lainey. But to be fair, the rules stay in regards to television watching and video watching. It's up to the parents. You can't sell it to people at that age, but you can't get in trouble for watching it.
Exactly.
There's plenty of kids that have watched 15s and 18 films.
I watched RoboCop when it came out. Never mind all else, you know. Anyway, Alex, Lisa, what about you? When did you first see this?
I don't know exactly how old I was, but I'd say probably like my mid-teens. My dad was the one who got me into Star Trek, so I watched it, somewhere along the line with him after, like, watching Next Generation and original series and, like, the actual TV shows, and I watched the movies. But, like, my initial reaction to it was, like, this is pretty good. It's a good movie. It was after watching it that, like, I started to nitpick and, like, pick up all the little details about, I don't like how they did this. But initial reaction, I liked it.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to people's nitpicks and things, because this one is, I think if you're not within the Star Trek fandom, this is the one that the general public seem to think is the greatest one. So
That or the whale one.
Yeah, or the whale one. The whale one's awesome. I love that one. That one, though, seems to be... I mean, we'll talk about this in a couple of months, but when I read stuff online now, people seem to be a lot then. Let's get the good stuff done. Who shall I pick? Ooh, anyone want to volunteer?
Should we ask Calvin?
Yeah, let's get Calvin. Calvin, what are your favourite moments from Wrath of Khan?
What's your favourite moment from Wrath of Khan, the movie that you've never seen?
I'd say, I don't know, probably the first one. I don't know.
I think he meant to say that you're a thing.
I think that's a good answer. I think he's doing well to say he's not seen it. And that was very naughty, Lainey, putting the poor man on the spot. Joe, then, tell us your pros.
Oh, you're picking on the ill person. No, it's fine. Okay, firstly, I love Kobayashi Maru. I think we all do. Just the concept that Star Trek, Starfleet, has a test, which isn't just the usual sort of testing of a person, but it's actually they test people's character. I like that about them. I like the shot. There's certain things I don't like about it, but I do just the whole thing. Kirk with the apple, it's just iconic. It's a great opening. What else we got here? I like that the film re-establishes the importance of Bones because and Spock to Kirk, because the thing is, we all, those of us who were here for the talk about the previous film, we said how everything was a bit stilted and everyone seemed a bit formal with each other, and McCoy was the only one that seemed himself. Certainly Spock is much more himself, but they really, because of the way that Spock is, the person that needed to kick Jim up the bum would be McCoy, and that's sort of thing that Bones does. That's kind of what he's there for. So the fact that it focused quite a lot on the trio, I really liked. I like the fact we have a black captain. Hooray! Mm-hmm. Progress. I like the eels. I know they're creepy, but I think that's what I like about them. And I like the fact that when this was set, they just managed to turn just a strange little puppety creature and the strange little eels inside it into a just thing that gives people nightmares, and rightly so. I love the writing in general. I think a lot of people say a lot of wonderful things about Nicholas Meyer's directing and Harve Bennett, helping bring everything together. But the screenplay, the bit of the actual dialogue, was written by another guy. I haven't got his name written down, but the writing throughout this whole thing is exceptionally good, and I think he needs to get some credit. Unfortunately, as I said, he didn't write his name down, so we'll have to pick up his name later and give him the plaudits he deserves, but we will make sure we do.
They always call out the name on the main pod, so we're good.
Okay, that's good. And, there's lots of other things, but I want to save some things for everyone else. So, yeah, the bit, lots of bits make me cry. The famous scene with Spock and Kirk does. But one thing that I got from the most recent watch was I feel there's that final scene between David, and I felt it a lot more this time. I wasn't sure whether to put David. Sorry?
You've got older.
Yeah.
When you watch these things when you're older, you see different things.
Well, I've not got a kid yet, but, but I remember watching this before and not always being 100% on David. Like, I think a couple of watches prior to this one, I would have put him as neutral zone. No, I like David. I think he had a good first showing, and I know he comes back for the next one. So I'm hoping to continue to do that. And I think having a kid does expand Kirk as a character a bit more. I just wish it was for longer, I guess. And that, again, I've got more pros than that, but I'll leave that for everyone else.
Okay, Alex Cersei, what about you?
Okay, mine is kind of carefully skewed here. My neutral zone is probably my biggest one, because I wrote down a lot of pros, and I'm like, these are kind of cons, too. Like, for instance, Saavik is a pro, but also a con for me. Like, I like the character. I like how they took this nobody, and they were like, okay, let's kind of give her a role. But it irritates me, too, because none of the main characters have anything to do, and she's, like, thrown into this in a bigger role than all of them. And that's not a knock on Saavik or Kirstie Alley. It's just the fact that they felt they needed another character, and she had to take such stage every time she's on the screen. I agree with Joe. I think Bones was a wonderful part of the movie. Like, everything important in the movie he's involved in. His talk with Kirk on his birthday, discussing Genesis with Spock, his reminder at the end that Spock's not gone as long as they keep him in their hearts. Like, he is very quietly just fantastic in everything he does in the movie. I like the score to the movie from the intro, the music during the battles, just it always sounds good. I'll leave it at that for now.
Okay. I agree on the and I don't know why, but it sounds nautical. It evokes like actual sailing ships and stuff somehow to me. Everyone else may not get that.
I agree.
Yeah, it's brilliant stuff. Alex, Lisa, then what about your pros?
Oh, my pro is Spock, of course. Spock's good in anything she's in. The Kobayashi Maru. Kobayashi Maru is always fun to see, like that, like how they like introduced that, and Kirk has his lines like talking to Savick about just like how she goes through the Kobayashi Maru, and he talks to her about how he went through it. And then the end of the movie, that was great too. When just the credits came. That's about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ouch.
I really liked the credits. It was great. It was like, hey, we're done with this movie. I feel better now.
Oh boy. Oh gosh. We're gonna hit some controversial, spicy territory here, people.
Well,
looking forward to that.
We'll wait while we get to the cons then. The opening credits, because she knew the bloody film was starting. Yeah. Anyway, so pros, Lainey, take us through your pros.
Well, my first one was Birthday Bones. Alex already just touched on that. I loved just that whole scene between Bones and Kirk in his home. Everything Bones said, and then he's just fab through the whole movie. I was a little bit like, hang on, like, because the glasses were mentioned on the main pod, and I was like, well, why would he need glasses? But they do actually talk about how he's allergic to some retina thing. Because surely everyone's getting laser surgery in the future. Because it wouldn't involve you actually looking at a laser going into your eye.
It'd be phaser surgery.
Phaser surgery.
You think?
Nah, still doesn't make it sound appealing.
Bit too powerful, that. I think your eye would explode.
Well, I don't know. You have to talk to Thomas Riker about how he finally tunes his phaser to make pictures.
There you go.
I enjoyed the score again. So much of that score is on the album that I listen to when I'm trying to be productive. So it's just really, I don't know, it just really focuses me and motivates me and gets me in like a really great headspace for getting work done. So whenever I'm being distracted or on a deadline like that, I play that music. So it's fab. I like how Genesis is kind of drip fed. Because I was watching it, I was like, well, I know what Genesis is, blah blah blah, and then they sort of explain it kind of like 45 minutes in or something. And I was like, oh yeah, of course, if you hadn't seen this before, you wouldn't know what they were chatting about when they're talking about Genesis. But I kind of like that it's kind of left there with breadcrumbs, and then it's like, oh no, this is like a huge thing, especially when they think they're abandoned in this like one like storage room, and actually that's just the doorway to like this entire world that they've created. Am I allowed more? Or we're
You're allowed more if you want more.
I like the engineering uniforms because they would be different to your bridge crew uniforms if you're in engineering. And, you know, possibly being exposed to chemicals and working in dangerous environments. So I like that they're different to the bridge crew uniforms. And I've put here, he does it for his babies, which I think is a reference to that's Spock. He's a father figure for this new crew throughout. And I feel like he makes his choice at the end, you know, to sacrifice himself for the good of the many. I think he does it for his children that he's been nurturing and raising, and I'm just sort of like, oh god, I see like an extra like layer to it now. It's not just about like Kirk being sad. He did it for all those kids that had, you know, done their utmost best in a horrible situation. Damn you, Khan!
I never thought of that. That's a really good take on it. That does add something, yeah. Right, so that leaves me, doesn't it, with pros? So my first pro, and it may be the only time in the movies that I get to say this, but I think William Shatner is fantastic in this film. I think this is far and away the best acting he's ever done. And I don't know whether maybe the director, Nicholas Meyer, because he's also very, very good in Star Trek 6. So maybe Nicholas Meyer is just someone who can get something out of Shatner that other people can't. But he allows the character to be older. There's none of this, I'm going to pretend I'm still in my 20s, 30s rubbish that you do get in the later films. And clearly Shatner's a fan of that, going by Star Trek 5. But they actually let him have aged in this film. And he really shows range and proper emotion, not just like histrionics. I mean, obviously there's the famous Khan, bit. But he shows subtlety and things like when he's giving Spock's eulogy and his mouth starts to twitch because he's trying to hold the tears in. I mean, that's just incredible. And the way he reacts to David in that scene is really awkward with him, but he clearly wants to connect with him. And the fact that they give Kirk a love interest who's age appropriate, I know they don't sort of get, nothing goes on with them in this film, but the fact that they're acknowledging that, Captain Kirk's old flames would be older, it's just so much more mature and realistic. And like Shatner even underplays some things in part of it, and he's wistful and reflective, and it's just fantastic. Where's this guy in some of the other films? But there you go. The pacing of it, obviously this is coming off the back of Star Trek, the motion picture, so it's always going to be better. But if you look at the pacing and the structure of the film, because I was watching this while working from home, and obviously in between my calls and stuff, and I was pausing it when I needed to do important work things. But as a result of that, I kept seeing the timer on the DVD, and so I got a sense of how the film is structured, so you've got an opening, and we open with the Kobayashi Maru, which gives us an action scene that, turns out not to be real, but so it's an arresting opening. But then we get a lot of character building scenes with Bones and everything, and we get the start of Chekhov and Tyrell finding the Botany Bay. But then it's straight into it, and right at the middle point of the film, you get the first confrontation and the Enterprise gets crippled. And then there's a little lull when they're on the Genesis planet. Then it's into the big finale. And I just think it's paced and structured so much better. I love the fact...
I was really surprised. Sorry, James.
No,
I was
go
really
ahead.
surprised that it's like 1 hour, 58 minutes.
Yeah.
Because, it's such a huge film in Star Trek lore. I was like, what do you mean it's only 2 hours? And probably it wasn't even that, because I fast forwarded the opening sequence and stuff. So, it's well under 2 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's credits as well. And anybody who's been watching WandaVision knows that the credits can take a long time. People are like, hey, this episode's 47 minutes. No, it's not, mate. It's like 33. There's like so many credits at the end. Anyway, I love the fact that Kirk wins by being good at his job. He's not better than Khan. He's not stronger than Khan. He's not cleverer than Khan. But it's the fact that he's so good at what he does that he can beat this person who's so superior to him. And I think that's really well done. I love that despite the fact that this is a sequel to an original series episode, you don't need to have seen that episode. Like, I didn't see Space Seed until I'd seen this film I don't know how many times. But they do such a good job of establishing Khan and the history and everything that you don't need to have seen it. Also, we get the new Miranda-class ship, which I think I'm right in saying is the first ship in Star Trek, first Federation ship that's not a Constitution-class ship. So that kind of opened the floodgates to all the different ones we have now. So, yeah, loads that I love about this one. Which means it is now time for the neutral zone. And Alex Cersei can take it away with this.
have to add in one more pro. When David dies, that was good. That was a good part.
That's not till Star Trek 3.
That's number 3.
Spoilers.
We're jumping ahead. But,
She's just so excited for it.
yeah.
Oh, wait, sorry, wrong movie.
Okay.
I have a proper pro though. You might have already brought this up, Jim, because my internet died for a second. Did you bring up Ricardo Montalban at all?
No, I didn't actually.
Why? I thought I left it for everyone else to do, and no one else has done it. So I'm going to bring it up now. He kills it. He does a good job.
You never forget to face.
Well, ironically, Khan is my first neutral zone, so
Ooh.
We'll
don't hurt me.
move to that. We'll
He
transfer to that.
He does act very well. Like I'm not ignorant of that, but Khan is very not smart for supposing to be, the smart he is. Like during the first battle, the communication line is open the whole time, and like Kirk whispers more or less for Sulu to lock phasers on. What is everyone on the Reliant Bridge doing? Like Khan in that scene is conveniently turned around from Kirk, but the audio is clearly open because Khan is interrupting him the entire time before they enter the prefix code. And it's just like, I mean, Joachim is at Spock's station working tactical. Why didn't he see the phasers get locked at them?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, no answer for that one.
And it seems like all the time, all of Khan's minions are on the bridge. Like, you'd think one of those 20 people might have noticed something. Maybe.
You'd think so. And they've got... Oh, no, they haven't got Chekhov and Tyrell at that point, have they? They've
no,
set them
yet.
down.
Aren't they just disciples, though?
Yeah.
They're just sort of blindly follow, the Messiah.
And similarly, I don't have technical data on this, but when Sulu fires his phasers, he blows up their atmospheric dome on the bridge, and I feel like they should have been blown out into space when that happened.
Yeah.
I mean, you see all that debris and all those cords and pipes and stuff come down, so there must have been something maybe between there, or maybe they didn't think about it. But that kind of bothers me.
I mean, that's always been a big silly thing with Star Trek, is that we make these ships, but we put the bridge right at the top of the saucer section with a little window on top of it. Like, you'd put it in the middle of the saucer, the command center, so that it's less likely to... Anyway.
And then, like I said, Saavik is kind of a neutral zone area, because I think she's portrayed well also, but like I said earlier, it bothers me. I'll leave that at that.
Anyone else got any neutral zones?
I do.
Go on then.
Actually, I think I just got a couple of it's more of a discussion points, really. So Saavik is called Mr. throughout. Because I'm assuming we just call everybody,
at least in
Mr.
the United States.
Okay. Right, I figured it was just a case of it's a rank and everyone's just Mr. And I got to thinking, maybe it's acknowledging non-binary aliens, and so we don't separate genders in titles. But then why would you call them Mr. rather than just, I don't know, their rank? So that was in there.
I think it is. I think Alex is right that it is a military thing, but I think you're a bit early with the early 80s for non-binary characters.
Yeah,
however, that doesn't stop. The great thing about works of fiction and works of art is that there is nothing to stop you applying that reading to it now, and there's nothing to say you're wrong. So that's pretty cool.
And this isn't really a Nooksh's own tool. This is just a question of so Genesis. It terraforms a new planets.
Mm-hmm.
Where that doctor hates Data for killing her kid, and the creepy bit where he pretends to be her kid. And they're terraforming a planet that the crystalline entity destroys. So is that would that have been the Genesis projects like actually being applied in Next Generation?
No, I think, and we'll get to it when we get to Star Trek 3, there's something fundamentally wrong with Genesis, which is why it's abandoned.
Yes, okay, of course.
Because it's too powerful, isn't it, for them to leave it as
It's too powerful and it works too fast. Their idea was that it would start quickly and then slow down, so eventually everything would just go back to normal. Like the planet would be ready in, X number of days, and it would then go on forever. Whereas no, it turns out it just continues to evolve and change at the expanded rate and then destroy itself.
Yeah,
so
but
it's useless.
I've forgotten it all goes tits up.
That's because David used protomatter or so. Anyway, but
David's fault, is it?
Of course, it's David's fault. Yeah. But yeah, I suppose I'll raise this as a neutral zone then, because it is. I feel like it is a plot hole, but it doesn't really matter. So the whole Genesis thing is it takes a moon or some other dead form. And makes it into a thing. So what does it actually use as the base material at the end of the film? Because it blows up on the Reliant in the Matara Nebula, so does it use the nebula and make that into a planet? Yeah. That's what we're going with. Okay, so question 2. Is it not convenient that it does so at the precise correct distance from a sun to make a Class M planet? Because if there was not a sun nearby, it would have been way too cold. But all of a sudden, there's just this sun.
Stop thinking about it, James. Stop thinking about it. Just stop thinking about it. You're going to ruin the film.
I've seen this film too many times. I'm sorry.
That was my job.
Any other neutral zones then?
I got some. Let's bring up the infamous Chekhov retcon. Chekhov didn't exist back when Space Seed was happening, and he appears in this. Now, of course, the reason it's a neutral zone is 1, because it doesn't really matter, and 2, because I like the story someone made up. I think they decided, maybe non-canonically, I think the guy that played Chekhov basically decided that he was in fact on the ship at the time, and that he was he used up all the toilet paper in the restrooms when Khan really needed to go, and then he just is like, "Oh, I don't remember that name."
Yeah, I'm happy with that to be accepted as part of canon.
I mean, even if it's not, the point is Chekhov was there. He just wasn't bridge crew.
Yeah.
So it's not a big thing. It's just that's why it's neutral. Why did the captain go away on the one? I know it happens all the time in the series, but it's BS. I'm glad that Picard stopped doing it. That was one of the first changes to TNG, even back in its ropey days, that made a lot of sense. Captain should be up on the ship. I'm sad that the first black captain ends up killing himself. Oh gosh, the black guy dies. That's a bit unfortunate. Also, they did their best, poor sods, but that scene where Khan lifts up Chekhov looks so silly nowadays. I'm putting it as neutral zone because they did as best as they could, but that was some shonky effects. And the Vulcan language, although better, is still a bit bad. They still haven't quite got that. And there's certain words that still sound a bit too humanish. Like, I think, by Jim last time. Again, lots of small, not massively big issues.
Okay, any other neutral zones? Lainey's got a hand up.
It's not a neutral zone. I just remember something else that about Bones that I loved, but it didn't come from him. It came from Scotty. When Kirk goes onto the Enterprise and he sees Scotty, he's like, "Oh, how are you?" And he was like, "Oh, I had a short bout, but Bones got me through it, or McCoy got me through it." And Kirk's kind of like, "Oh, well, what?" And he was like, "Oh, shore leave," because Scotty's a workaholic. and McCoy then sort of emotionally supported him through it, and that made me chuckle. I liked it.
You see, I read that as being a bit rude. I read that as Scotty might have had liaisons and then needed McCoy to give. You can read it that way. That might have not been what they meant. But you
traditional sailor.
Yeah, maybe he's been murdering prostitutes again or something.
No, again.
Okay, so let's move on to cons then.
One more neutral zone before the cons. I really like Scotty's acting towards his nephew, but again, the problem is that just like with the previous film, I've obviously made sure not to watch the special edition, to watch it as originally was, and I do feel like once again they've cut out some. From the sounds of it, they've cut out some things that they really didn't need to cut. Like the fact that you don't know, you can sort of guess that this is Scotty's relative, that it's his nephew, but they don't say it, and they really should have, because I think that would have made it hit more.
Yeah,
that is in the director's edition.
Yeah, and it's only a very brief scene as well. I don't know why they cut it. Most of the bits that they cut are very, very minor, and really don't see why they didn't do them. But okay, so let's do cons then. I'll get mine out of the way. Now, Joe's sung the praises of Captain Tyrell, and I think you're absolutely right that, it's the first black captain in Star Trek, and it's very forward-thinking. However, I think some of the lines he delivers are a bit lame. Particularly when he's kind of possessed by the earworm, like when he goes, he had to get back to the ship to blow you all to bits. And it's like, come off it. And I think he gives the game away that he's clearly possessed by something before it becomes evident. I think he just plays it a little bit too shifty. So that's one. Now, I know this may be sacrilege, and I know I've praised the structure and the pacing. I think possibly there's too many epilogues at the end of this film. We have the battle and, the defeat Khan and everything, and that's great, but there's still like 15, 20 minutes of the film left. And just in terms of film structure, once you reach the climax, you start to lose the audience if you don't wrap it up. And so we get that. Then we get Spock's death. So we've had a 1-2 punch of the big action scene, the big emotional scene. Then we get Spock's funeral. It feels like the film could end there, but then we get a scene with Kirk and David, which, yes, is essential for the character arcs, but it just feels a little bit... Then we get this sort of coda where they're on the bridge and I feel young and it's great, but it's just still going. And then you get Leonard Nimoy's Space: The Final Frontier, which is wonderful.
I was going to say, I think for me, if anything was going to be cut, it should have been that Leonard Nimoy Space thing. Only because everyone knew I know everyone was shocked he was died, but the scuttlebutt, once the film was released, was that he was coming back. So people have already started to think. Yeah. And in fact, they even have that line in there. You see, that's one. I'm going to put this as. I know it's not my turn yet, but I really did not like that line that was which was just put in, like almost in post of basically saying, "Yeah, we're coming back."
Yeah,
like you didn't need to say that.
No, they didn't. But I don't know which, if any, of those scenes you would cut or shorten. But the cumulative effect of it is that the end of the film feels a little bit too long. Maybe switch the David scene around, put the David scene straight after Spock dies, then have the funeral because that feels final. I don't know. So that's another one of my cons. One that's always bothered me is that Khan doesn't know that Kirk's beaten him. And I always think they should have had a shot of Khan seeing the Enterprise jump to warp so that Khan knows that he's not succeeded in defeating Kirk. I just think that'd have been nice. And then My final con for this film is not related to this film at all. It's related to Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Crystal Skull, the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And my problem with that film is that the arc that Indiana Jones has in that film should be the same as Kirk's arc in this film. Because Kirk starts off saying, I feel really old, and he finishes saying, I feel really young. And in Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, there's a scene where Indiana Jones says to Jim Broadbent's character, I've reached that stage in life where life stops giving to you and just starts taking away. And he shows a picture of Sean Connery and of Marcus Brody. But by the end of that film, India's found a wife and realised he's got a son. And it's like that should have had the same emotional impact that Kirk's arc in this film did, but because it was rubbish, it didn't. So Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is my biggest con for Wrath of Khan.
That almost seems like you're cheating a little bit there.
Well, if it's good enough for Captain Kirk, it's good enough for me.
Yes,
So,
you've reprogrammed it.
Yep.
Can't believe it.
Joe, let's have the rest of yours then.
Okay. There's not many. I don't like the simulator voice. That was a rubbish robot voice. I think the uniform for the Reliant was rubbish. Little tape player in their in their uniform for some reason. I don't think the training crew acquit themselves all right, but they're not memorable. There's some, as much as I praise the dialogue, there are some dubious things in there, particularly when Kirk told, I think Kirk told Sulu to indulge himself. Yeah, not brilliant. No, but the only real massive con I have for this is the sound balancing isn't good. I mean, the quiet bits are just too blooming quiet. And I know that maybe it's not a problem when you're watching it in the cinema, but I was once, because as I said, I'm not well, got dental issues or whatever, so I was sitting there with a strong face trying to listen to the film and watch it. And I want to watch it from my bed because it's nice and comfortable, but no, I can't hear it from that far away. So I have to go and sit on this reasonable computer chair. But you know what I mean? I think it's a small thing, but it's actually quite, it's not like anything to do with the film itself, as merits as a film, but, a bad sound balance can actually kind of really make the experience of watching a film less enjoyable. So again, maybe that counts as technically as cheating too, but for me, the sound balance of this film was the worst.
I mean, that's something that they should probably fix on the DVD and Blu-ray releases. That's something they could tweak.
You think that they would do that?
You would think they would do that.
Release,
you would,
but no.
But they've not. Yeah, there we go then. Is that all of your cons, Joe?
Yeah, there aren't many.
Yep.
I do. As I said, I do enjoy this film quite a lot. It's one of my favourites.
Okay, so Alex, Lisa, what have you got?
Let's see. The thing at the beginning where so Chekhov was supposed to go to one of the planets, the SETI Alpha 5. He ended up on SETI Alpha 4. Like, how do you make that mistake? I don't know. Like, I feel like he could have not made that mistake. He brought himself to Khan. Like, I feel like he had to have known the details and gotten stuff.
I mean, I will say on his defense, if a planet explodes and another planet basically his orbit changes to basically put him in the same place that original planet was, you're gonna get him confused.
But the system's still missing a planet.
I feel like somebody would have noticed, like, hey, I'm supposed to be here. Some things I'm counting planets. I'm not counting the right number of planets. What's happening here? I'm gonna go ask somebody. Be like, hey, y'all know what's happening in the SETI Alpha system? I'm here. I don't see these planets. Could get a little help here.
Isn't there an episode of the animated series called One of Our Planets is Missing?
Yes.
Yay. There we go.
Good old animated series. Gotta hate that. Yeah. And then just overall think it was kind of dry for me. Like, I watched it the first time, I thought it was good. The second time through, I was like, okay, this is boring. I don't want to watch this again. I was not as enthused as I am like watching the other movies. I can watch those, like 5, 6, 7 times. This, I was like, watch it once. I'm like, I'm not really interested in watching it a second, third, or fourth time. I've seen the fourth one, Voyage Home, 43 times. That's an approximation. But the point is, it didn't do it for me. The storyline, the dialogue, the acting, just the overarching theme, just like I didn't like it. So the whole movie's a con for me.
Controversial.
Interesting.
Alex, Cersei, what have you got?
Okay, on the note of things being deleted from the movie, I don't know how many people are aware. I shared this with Jeremy before they did their podcast, but if you dig around YouTube and Reddit and Memory Alpha and stuff, the scene where Kirk and Sulu and company are going to the Enterprise in the shuttle pod, there's dialogue that was filmed and cut there where Kirk mentions that he's just written orders for Sulu to take command of the Excelsior. And it irks me that that's out because, for one, it would kind of explain why Sulu's so excited about the Excelsior in 3 when they see it, and in 4 when he says, oh, I hope we get the Excelsior. And then, like, without that, even though it's just a couple seconds, all of a sudden you watch all these movies and then he just has the Excelsior in Star Trek 6.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Mean, that 5 seconds would go a long way to explaining some stuff. I still feel like Khan has acted very well, but he is just not smart during any of their battles at all. Like, before they go into the Nebula fight, the Reliant comes back to Regula and he can't find the Enterprise and he doesn't know where they are. And it's like, I think, like, even though it's not said, based on where we see the Enterprise, they must have been using the magnetic pole at the bottom of the planet to hide. But, like, shouldn't he be able to think these things out and whatnot? And there is a line about how their sensors can't detect the Enterprise, but when Kirk gets back to the Enterprise from Regula, they can detect the Reliant orbiting Regula with them, and they're more crippled. So it's little things like that happen that just don't need to happen, that I feel kind of hurt things a little bit. And I don't know. Like, I've seen this a lot of times, and these are things that I might not have nitpicked if I hadn't seen this 50 or 75 times already. So it's just kind of like, oh, hey, maybe I'm noticing this for the first time. But no, I don't have anything serious about the movie con-wise.
Okay, Lainey, have you got any cons?
Earworms. However, Jocelyn explained how impossible they are. So if we're looking at things that are massive flaws, she was talking about how there is actually no route from the ear into the brain that worm would be able to get through. And talking about the prefrontal cortex and stuff, and she was like, they were like in completely the wrong part of the brain. And I was like, oh, it's a load of bollocks. Oh, we allow bollocks.
I mean, it's funny though, because, when you got ear pain, it does feel like your whole being thing. So maybe that's why they did it. Or maybe they got it from Shakespeare. With the poison in the ear. Of course, that was rubbish too, but,
So, yeah, it's always been earworms for me, but Jocelyn has cured me of my phobia.
Hooray!
So, I did wonder whether, is David the character, is he necessary? I mean, just like, if you removed him from the film, would it change the film?
No, I don't think it would. I mean,
much.
I think he's there to make Kirk a better character.
Yeah. I think it
if he's not around, does that mean Saavik gets killed and search for Spock instead of him?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it adds something to Kirk's character, but yeah, it's not essential to the plot, no.
Just seems a bit convenient.
Yeah.
Not convenient, just a bit like, oh, he's got a kid. Right, okay. I think this having Carol, isn't it? Carol?
Yeah.
His mum? Yeah. I think that would be punchy enough. But kill her in 3.
Yeah, instead she just never to be seen again, so... Yeah. Okay, so that's cons. So what we're going to move on to is potentially the most exciting feature of this podcast. It certainly was last time, where we ranked the films. So just to recap for anyone who missed it, the ranking of the Star Trek movies goes Star Trek the Motion Picture. So we're now going to place Star Trek 2 on this scale. Does anyone think that the motion picture is better than this one? Okay. So, the new ranking for the Star Trek films, and this will get, I'm sure from episode 3, this will start getting interesting. In fact, I'm going to make it interesting in a minute. But the new ranking goes Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, then Star Trek The Motion Picture. Just to spice up this segment, I'm going to throw one at you here. Where would you put Rocky 4 in this ranking? So you've got Star Trek 1.
Rocky 4?
Why not Rocky 4?
Specifically?
In the middle.
Yeah, but you should pick Rocky
middle.
3 over 4.
Nope.
Rocky 3's better than 4.
No, 4's better than 3.
No, I'm sorry.
Rocky 3, Rocky's wildly out of character in Rocky 3.
James is right. I gotta agree.
Yeah, Rocky 4's silly, but at least Rocky feels true to himself. Rocky 3, it just doesn't, it's the only time he doesn't ring true in the whole series for me.
Wait, that means you're saying that Rocky made sense in Rocky 5. We can't be saying that.
Rocky does make sense in Rocky 5 as a character. Rocky's absolutely makes sense. Rocky has never been about the money and things like that. Rocky's about being the best version of yourself that you can be, and he epitomises that in Rocky 5.
It's rubbish in other ways.
No, I'm a big supporter of Rocky 5, but we'll cover this on our Rocky podcast.
You know, we're rocking up an amazing amount of podcasts for things podcasts that don't exist about things that I might not have 100% seen.
Well,
it's amazing.
We need to crack on with them. So anyway, Alex, I agree with you.
Before we go, I do remember something. You know, you were saying about, we're talking about ranking these films.
Yes.
I remember what Alex said about and why she wasn't really fond of this one. And I might have worked out why that might be. Because the thing with this film is, I'm thinking over more now, it's almost like they looked at the original and said, this is really slow. We'd better speed it up. So they sped it up. And I think that was good that they
we're losing Joe's sound.
His pacing slowed down.
Yeah.
Wasn't he talking about speeding up?
It
He
was.
just gradually stopped talking.
The irony. The bad thing is when this happens, the other person doesn't know it's happening to them. So Joe's probably giving this lovely, eloquent monologue about why. Anyway, while Joe's frozen, Alex,
when he comes back, we'll have to applaud really hard.
Is he all frozen for you in a salute?
A salute, yeah.
Yes.
Excellent.
Alex, I agree with you. I think it goes Star Trek 2, Rocky 4, Star Trek 1. Lainey, do you agree with that ranking?
Do you know, I don't remember the details of Rocky 4.
It's the one where he fights Dolph Lundgren.
Ivan Drago.
Yeah, I must break you.
Can we pick an MCU film instead?
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Oh, it's better than Ant-Man and the Wasp. Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
I agree.
But Ant-Man and the Wasp is better than the motion picture, so it's middle. That would be middle.
I think that's arguable. I'd put motion picture over Ant-Man and the Wasp. I got pretty bored with Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Oh my god, what on earth's happened to the screen now?
Not bored. We've lost Joe, everybody.
Joe beamed out.
He's just still there talking to an empty. Let's move on then, now that we've established the ranking, which now goes Star Trek 2, Rocky 4, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Star Trek 1.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
So,
Joe doesn't know though.
Joe's back.
Back in.
Hello, everyone.
We need to get his approval. He is the ambassador.
Just applauding your monologue.
Well, I only got halfway through it.
Well, you didn't even get halfway for us.
Oh, gosh.
It was that good.
You were about to tell us about the pacing where they've made Wrath of Khan faster.
Yeah, well, they've not just made it fast. To make it faster, they've basically decided to make it leaner. And by leaner, I mean that when you look at it, not that much actually happens in the film. More than it has to, and in some ways that's...
Oh no, we're losing him again.
This monologue must be too inappropriate to be shared.
Yeah, we're having to censor it.
Bill Gates. He does not want Joe to tell the truth about
That's it. Well, while Joe's frozen for the second time, I'm going to move on and give you the alternative fun facts about Star Trek 2.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one might actually answer, if you remember on the main pod, Jeremy had a question about the age of some of Khan's crew. So this first fact might answer that. For the scenes with the Seti eel, there were many animal wranglers required to be on set at all times as the creature is on the endangered species list. Many of the extras in the scenes were in fact there to ensure that it was not harmed during production. Your next alternative fun fact. Kirstie Alley declined to return to the role of Saavik for any more Star Trek films, as she felt science fiction was way too silly for her. Coincidentally, she later became a Scientologist.
Very good. Very good.
The prop of Khan's fake chest was so expensive that it was kept by Paramount Pictures and has since been used by such actors as Chris Hemsworth, Amy Adams, and Peter Dinklage. And in a Star Trek Wars exclusive, for next year's 40th anniversary, there will be a long-lost deleted scene reinserted into the film, and we can exclusively reveal the dialogue. Khan, there seems to be some kind of filter. Yes, Admiral, I am happy to carry on the call. I am here live. I am not a cat. And that is the end of your alternative fun facts.
Does he say, I have 9 lives?
Well, I don't know, you'll have to wait for when the scene is introduced next year. Joe, do you want to give us one more try at your pacing monologue?
I don't know if am I tempting fate? It seems like my life nowadays to be tempting fate. I will phrase it.
Motion picture slow, Wrath of Khan fast. That might affect how people enjoy it because...
Well, no. I'll put it another way. No, come on.
No, you're okay. We can hear you. You can't hear us.
He's afraid.
Oh, no. Everyone can... He's moving for me. He's not talking.
He's moving for me? I feel like something's going on here.
Is he winding us up?
Do we need to call the police or something?
Joe! Did you take more medicine, Joe? Joe!
This is why you should not mix your medicines. Okay, I think what we're going to do, we're going to have to speak to Jeremy and see if he can make Joe's monologue a Patreon exclusive that Joe can record as and when it's available.
He's back!
He's back.
Oh,
I'm officially cursed. I'm cursed.
It's kind of like in Red Dwarf, where Holly's only going to be on for a few seconds, so they have to condense the message. White hole, spewing time, engines dead, S fly low, advice please. You need to condense your speech.
That was a good episode. I'll try. Essentially, they decided to make Wrath of Khan faster than motion picture by stripping out anything they didn't think was absolutely necessary. And while that made film faster and it kept all the important things it needed to, it left out a lot of the Star Trek-ness that some people really like from Star Trek. And so why it doesn't bother me and why I love this film, I can understand why maybe that's why Alexander doesn't like it as much. There. And yes, it let me get through. I'm not cursed. Hooray!
Well,
Bravo!
on that bombshell then, I think we can wrap up. If we don't get chucked out of the council and or the Facebook group off the back of this podcast, you can probably find us all on there. We'll be back next time to talk about the search for Spock. That's the one where David dies, Alex.
Oh yeah, that one. I
um,
like that one.
Oh yeah.
So the main
It was
podcast
amazing.
episode will be dropping on that in a couple of weeks' time, and we'll be
Spoiler
back.
alert.
We'll be back in about a month's time to talk about that one. Thanks for listening, guys. We will see you next time.
Bye.
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 There once was a ship put to the skies. The name of the ship was the Enterprise. Her nacelles lit, her phasers armed, oh blow, you red shirts blow. Soon may the flagship come, bring us Earl Grey tea and Orion rum. One day when the scanning is done, engage and boldly go. Been not 2 weeks from Sector 1 when we were sacked by Romulans. Red alert was called when Captain said torpedoes make it so. Soon may the flagship come, bring us Earl Grey tea and Orion rum. One day when the scanning is done, engage and boldly go.